how does it impact animal performance? So actually, I'm going to share some of the work that I did with one of my clients. So basically, if you ask a shrimp farmer what is important for your farm, what is your goals? Well, it's very simple. He wants to have, or he or she, the farmer wants to have a fast growth. They want to have an efficient conversion, so a low feed conversion rate, and to have a high survival rate. These three components combined with the price can create the economics of the farm eventually. So what can you do as a feed producer, and how can you achieve that with the feed? So first of all, you want to maximize the nutrient intake in the shrimp. So you want to have proper water stability, you want to have a proper attractability and a good palatability. Because when you get something inside, then when you get the nutrients inside, there is a good chance that the animal will grow off it. If you don't get it inside, yeah, no way, it will not grow. Then obviously, to have, after the shrimp has eaten it, it has to have the correct nutritional composition. That is why we do the least costing. And so we combine the nutrients, the right nutrients, and combine, as a consequence of that, the right raw materials to create the good nutrition for the animal. That can guarantee a good conversion rate. And the survival then is impacted by a lot of factors, but also the feed producer can add some health and digestion supporting additives that help the animals to cope with the circumstances and to help to cope them with the feed and digest it. So to maximize the nutrient intake of the shrimp, you want to have the optimal water stability. Soft enough for the shrimp to eat it, but avoid leaching of too many nutrients. The attractiveness you create by having a good smell, actually leaching of some nutrients go to the feed. And then it has to be tasted. After it has found the pellet, we'll eat a lot of it. So here I show some examples, some practical examples of different diets. We look at water absorption, we look at dry matter leaching, and look at about protein leaching. For the sake of time, I will just focus on the protein leaching in this case. But you can see that between diet A and diet F, there are quite big variations in the amount of protein that disappears from the pellet after half an hour or after 30 minutes even. So if we look at after 30 minutes, diet C, 13% of the protein is already dissolved in the water, while in diet F, only 6% has disappeared. So if you have a 38% protein diet or a 48% protein diet, in this case, already 5% of that is gone. So you're not feeding with a 40% protein diet, you're feeding actually, or the shrimp is eating a 35% protein diet, with the consequences, of course, that you will have a much lower growth than potentially you will have with diet F, where the leakage is only 6%. Another one is the water absorption. So you need enough water absorption to make the soft pellet, so the shrimp can actually take the particles of it. But too high water absorption, 125% in this case, leads to more leaching, as you can see here after of dry matter and protein. This is of another experiment. Actually, we are comparing three groups of diets, diets 1 ABC and diets 2 ABC, and we're looking at the attractiveness of the pellets. In diet 1, the diets numbered 1, you can see there is some variation, but it's not very big. So the number of shrimp eating after 5, 15, and 30 minutes is not changing a lot between the different feeds. But in diets 2, you can see that there are almost 50% more shrimps eating of diet C than of diet A. Again, here you can see the big potential improvement that you will have in your diets if you are able to let the shrimp eat more of a certain diet. If you then look at the feed consumption, you see exactly kind of the same picture, because then you see the same data that I showed here before here. In the second stage, you see that in diet 1, you don't see a big difference in the amount of feed they eat, but in diet 2, diet C is eaten much more than the other ones. Obviously, then you create, after different times, we create a graph of growth. So you see here the final weight, and you can already see that there is a statistical difference between the different diets of trial A and of trial B, which are the same diets as we saw before. But what is more important is also look at the conversion rate. And you can see here that although we didn't see a much big difference in feed intake in diets 1 of the diets 1 group, the conversion rate in this diet is better. So in this case, we have a higher final biomass, a higher growth per week, etc., and a higher specific growth rate. So although the attractiveness of the diet and the palatability is more or less the same, we still see a better performance, probably because of better raw materials in this diet. Here in this second group, we see diet C standing out in FCR, but also in performance in biomass. That's interesting, but how does that translate to the farmer? How do they evaluate this? And therefore, we make the economical evaluation. So actually, we do the same. We have the same diets here, and we feed all the data. Of course, this is just a summary, but we also feed the feed costs. So the cost of a feeder bag, and then we monitor the change of feeding profit. So that's the profit the farmer makes on every kilogram of feed that he puts into his pond. And then you can see here that diet B, because of the faster growth, in spite of a higher price per feed, so we have $20 to $23 per bag in this case, the most expensive feed creates 32% better feeding profit than diet diet A. In the diet A, B, and C, we see a different picture. The feeding cost is the same, but because of a much better feeding intake and a similar survival rate, we can see a 23% improvement of the economic performance of the farm. So it's just an illustration to come to the conclusion to this part, is that higher feed cost in many cases pays as of an improved economic, or paid by an improved economic performance on the farm. And feeds water stability, attractability, and palatability combined with the appropriate nutritional composition determine the final economic performance. So that brings me to my conclusions and summary of this talk. So nutritional and physical quality and stability are equally important to secure optimal economic performance at the farm level. And that's what we have to keep in mind, because in the end, we can create our diets, but the economic performance at the farm in the end decides whether the client will buy your product or not. And then production of feeding of stable, high quality aqua feed requires a multidisciplinary approach of purchasing, nutritionist and the feed formulator, production to create good pellet and little dust in the pellet, logistics, and last but not least, on-farm technical support to educate your clients, to store the feed in the proper way, and to apply the right hygiene on farm level. And that is the last slide. Thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to your questions and hope you learned something today.